بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back to another video in this channel. Inshallah, we're going to do an interview with one of the students in Al-Jam'at Al-Qasimia in Al-Qasimia University that is about to graduate, inshallah. We have with us here today our beloved, esteemed guest, Ustaz Osama. Ustaz Osama, can you give us some background about yourself, where you're from, your name, your age, and what you're currently studying in the Jami'ah, and the rest? Tafaddal.
Yeah, of course. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I want to give the thanks to Brother Ahmed for inviting me here for this interview. It's honestly an honor. And my name is Osama Abdalla Orogomochanyao. I am originally from Togo, and I was born and raised in Spain for around 13 years. And then I moved to the United Kingdom, and I'm currently 23 years old. I am now studying here at Al-Qasimia University in the Faculty of Sharia, and I'm specializing in Fiqh and Usool of Fiqh. That usually translates to Islamic jurisprudence and its foundations.
And which year currently are you in, Ustaz Osama?
Yeah, I'm currently on my final semester, inshallah. So after this semester, I will be graduating and returning.
Inshallah. Bitawfiq, mashallah. So to start off, Sheikh Osama or Ustaz Osama, why did you embark on the journey to seek knowledge? Where did your interest or love for seeking knowledge start from? Was it because maybe your father was a sheikh, or maybe a particular person guided you towards seeking knowledge? Tell us about your upbringing in knowledge.
Yeah, of course. So, honestly, my journey to seeking knowledge was not something extraordinary or something, really special. I had a pretty normal childhood growing up as a Muslim in the West. So usually would have attend madrasa from Saturday and Sunday, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, depending on what year it was. And over there, we learned really basic Arabic in terms of reading and writing. We learned how to recite Quran. We did some hifz, and we did things relating to Islamic studies, but at a very basic level. So things like relating to prayer and fasting are things that I absorbed from my community and those around me. And of course, being from a West African background, Islam was pretty much part of my identity, part of my culture. So anything relating to Islam, it was pretty much always there in my life from the day I was born until today. So for example, we'd have regular events. If someone was getting married or if someone gave birth, we'd have meetings and meet the community at the mosque, and sometimes they give lectures in this regard. Sometimes, because of our West African community in Europe, we'd have quite often conferences either once a year at some city in Europe, sometimes maybe in Spain or in Belgium or in Germany and things like that. And honestly, the thing is, I never had an identity issue growing up in the West. Even though I grew up in a Catholic country and I attended in a Catholic school, there was never a moment where I felt that if I was a Muslim, my life would be better. I never had that feeling. So my parents made sure to instill that Islamic identity into me. But of course, the usual difficulties are always there, where sometimes, a child may feel a bit of shame, being seen in an attire that's related to Islam, like wearing a thobe, or being seen by classmates and things like that. And sometimes, you'd feel a bit bad about missing out of things. But even with that, I've never felt, I wish I didn't wear this. Simply the issue was that I didn't build the full comfort in my Islamic identity. But now, The thing is, in terms of seeking knowledge, I enjoy studying in general,
Yes.
right? But I've never had really a specific passion to say in seeking Islamic knowledge. In fact, the whole idea of talabul ilm, it didn't really come to me until I had started studying at this university. However, before that, I had an interest to some extent. So since I was a child, we've had family friends sometimes before we even open the mosque that they'll come and teach us at our house with our neighbors and other family friends that we had. With also sometimes when I will be using the computer, my father, before I get distracted with games, my father will make sure that I do something related to Islam. Tell me, did I read my Quran first? Did I do my homework? Things like that. So no matter what it was, my parents always had that Islamic upbringing pushed into me, right? But then it wasn't until I moved to the UK where it kind of started to motivate me a bit more, because in the UK is where I started seeing khutbahs being done in English language.
Yep.
So now this was my first time attending Jummah prayer and understanding what the khatib was saying, right?
So in Spain, they didn't used to do it?
No, when I was in Spain, rather, the khutbahs were always in Arabic.
Really?
And obviously at the time I didn't really speak Arabic.
Would most people understand, or would you say...
I'd say most people understand, mainly because many of them came from Morocco.
Okay.
So of course, it came naturally to them to some extent.
Yeah.
But in my case, and in the case of many other of my friends,
Yeah.
we really didn't have the Arabic. So a lot of times we attend Jummah and not really understand what was being told to us, not realizing that perhaps there was a lot of benefit
Yep.
to what the Imam was saying.
Yep.
So now that I was in the UK, obviously I'm seeing these lectures, these khutbahs in English, lectures being done in English. So I'm attending this here and there and actually taking something out of it.
Yes.
Right. However, to say that I was, specifically seeking knowledge, that didn't start until I started the university.
And you're based in London, صح?
No, right now I'm based in Birmingham.
Birmingham, mashallah, Brum.
Yes.
Mashallah. So okay, that connects to my next question now. You said you didn't really see or start seeking knowledge properly until you came to the Jamia,
Yeah.
until you came to the university. What was the thing that made you decide to come to the university? How did you even hear about Qasimiyah? Because I don't know if most of the viewers, they don't know, but the amount of Western students in the university is very little. You can count them on your fingers.
Yeah, that's right.
So the people who actually get into Qasimiyah, it's always interesting to hear the stories on how they heard about it or how they came to the university. So what's your story?
Honestly, it's not something really weird. It's pretty normal, but like the way I heard about the university was that we have this West African Islamic community in Europe, right? And one of the brothers there informed a family friend about this availability of the study at the university, who then came and informed my parents, who then came and told me about it.
Okay.
So when I heard about it, I was in the UK already studying architecture.
Oh, you entered uni already?
Yeah, I had entered uni at that point.
How long did
But it was only my first year.
Okay.
And the thing is that I was really not enjoying it. So I was already planning on switching to another course.
Right.
However, they told me about this. So after some convincing, I decided to apply. Because at this point, the only Islamic university I've heard about was the Islamic University in Madinah.
Yes.
But then they told me, there's an Islamic university here in UAE that you can go there, do a few years of studies. So I was like, okay, let me register. And the reason why I registered rather than staying and studying there was because this was kind of like a unique opportunity, right? If I apply now and I get accepted, I can do my Islamic studies. And then if I want to do anything else back in the UK, I have the rest of my life to do it, right? But this of going to do Islamic studies is kind of limited because as you grow, responsibilities start stacking up and it becomes more difficult. And I've seen it like some students came here and they had to go back because, they couldn't handle the two things at the same time.
Yes. Also the age limit.
Yeah, and there's also the age limit, right?
For Madinah it's 25 and here it's 20.
Yeah,
So khalas, if you're above 20, there's no chance to come here anymore.
that's right.
I mean, you can there's some students who will get accepted after 20, but very little. So it's better you study Islam now, and if you want to study a secular degree, you can always do it after. In the UK, there's no age limit.
There's no age limit, right? So you can always go back to that.
Yeah.
So obviously, after I got told about the university, I registered, I think it was around February or March. And it was only a few weeks or months after that I started getting more replies and I started moving on with the process.
Yes. So how is it apply? So the question now, did you apply to Jamia Islamiyah in Medina or no? You just applied here?
No, I only applied here. Actually.
Okay.
Because the thing is that we also didn't know about how the whole applying to Jamia Islamiyah worked. In fact, I didn't even consider the idea of applying to Jamia Islamiyah in Medina because, I'm just like I'm just a boy in here in Birmingham. I don't know Arabic. I don't know any of the Islamic sciences. So, applying there, like, what am I going to be doing there, right?
Yeah.
So I applied here, just off a whim. I wasn't really expecting to get accepted or anything.
Yes.
But eventually, everything ended up working out, and now I'm here about to finish.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Tell us, you applied and then you had your interview.
Yeah.
Everyone that applies to Qasimiyah has to go to the interview. And it's something that I get a lot of messages about.
Yeah.
People who apply to the university, they're like, what are they going to ask me in the interview? How can I prepare myself for the interview? So tell us your experience about the interview and basically the questions they ask normally and how someone can prepare themselves to ace the interview, inshallah.
Yeah. So the thing is, when I applied to the university, it took around 3 to 4 weeks to get an email regarding my interview.
Yeah.
Right? And they sent an email saying on this date at this time, make sure to join the Zoom call and we're going to do the interview to you. And now the interview, the issue was I didn't really speak Arabic at that point.
Yeah.
And by I didn't really speak Arabic, I mean I didn't speak Arabic at all. So I applied, I joined the call and I was waiting, and then I got faced with one of the teachers after some time. And he started asking me questions in Arabic. And I was like...
The interview was in Arabic?
The interview was in Arabic. So I was like, Ustaz, I don't speak Arabic. لا أفهم العربية.
So you know that sentence only.
I knew that sentence. I made sure to search that sentence to be able to say it for the interview. So then the teacher realized I didn't speak Arabic, but he still tried to tell me to do things, even still in Arabic, but he tried to simplify it so I could follow with the process.
Yep.
Right? And amongst the things that they asked me was, they asked me the name, how old I was. They asked me how much do I know from the Quran. When I replied that question, they asked me to recite a few verses from here and there. So I did that.
Did they test your hifd? Be like, read from this part of the Quran, or did they just say read anywhere?
No, yeah. When I told them, how much I memorized, they asked me, okay, recite from the beginning of this surah. Like they said, recite from the beginning of Surah Al-Mulk. So I started reciting from there.
Okay.
Sometimes I had also that for some students, they asked them how many Islamic texts they memorize and things along those lines.
So how many did you have back then?
0. Right.
MashaAllah. And what else?
So that was pretty much in terms of the questions. But then right after those Islamic related questions, they started asking me questions a bit related to the Arabic. So they showed me a text on the screen and they told me to read. And I did my due diligence in trying to read as best as I could. After reading it, they asked me a few questions, but of course, like reading comprehension questions, but of course I couldn't answer them because I didn't understand what
Arabic
was written in front of me, right? I could read it, but could not understand it.
Yeah.
So the interview was done by then. They're like, okay, khalas, you can leave now. So I left.
How long was it? Around about like...
Honestly, the interview was really short. It was like 5 to 10 minutes max.
Yeah. Similar to mine.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. So after the interview, what were your hopes like? Did you feel like, okay, I bombed the interview, or like I didn't do good enough, I'm not gonna get accepted? Did they tell you you're gonna get accepted or no?
No, they didn't say anything actually. like as soon as I replied to the last question, they said khalas khalas, right? So I was like, okay, maybe it's finished, right? Maybe it's done.
Yeah.
So at this point, I was thinking, okay, I'm not gonna get accepted. I couldn't even understand what he was telling me at all, right?
Yeah.
But it was only like I think like a month later, they sent me another email, and this email came from the language center, and the language center is where you do the Arabic intensive course, right?
Yep.
And the email was basically saying that we have an exam to do, me and a group of students online, relating to Arabic. It was like a speaking test. No, it was like a reading test.
Yep.
And listening test as well. And I think right after that there was also a speaking test. So when that came, I went until the day of the exam and I entered it, and it was like a list of questions, list of text, list of audios that you listen to or you read through the text, and then you answer the questions. And I believe after replying to those questions is when they determine where they're going to put you in the language center. So at this point, you can kind of have like a bit of hopes that you're going to be
basically you're accepted.
Been accepted, you've been nominated.
But
right?
it's either Markaz, language center, or Kulliyah, faculty.
That's right.
Okay. SubhanAllah, I didn't know this. I didn't know there was a online test. I never did the test. Yeah. So tell us more about this Markaz, this Arabic language center. What do you study? How long do you study? What are the books, the curriculum? What are your experiences? Do you think it was enough? Continue.
Right. So when I started the university, so after I did the test, I received another email regarding me being nominated, and I had to send certain documents that they had listed. And then after that, I received the visa to come into the country. So I came in within a week of receiving that email. And then I got informed that I was added to the language center for the Arabic intensive program.
Yep.
So the way that it was is that we went through the Al-Arabiya Bayna Yadayk book series. We completed around 6 of their books.
Yes.
And the way that they teach you is that they teach you fully in Arabic. When I got told I was getting added to the Arabic program, I thought, they'll teach us in English and then, explain the Arabic part, right?
Or maybe transition slowly
into
Arabic,
right? But no, from day one, the teacher was speaking to you fully in Arabic.
No English at all?
No English at all.
SubhanAllah.
So obviously, one thing that surprised me a few years later was that someone told me that one of the teachers in the Markaz, he speaks really good English, and I couldn't believe it. I was thinking, he speaks English?
Yeah.
But basically they teach you fully in Arabic, and the way it works is that you have 4 classes a day, and the first class, or usually the first class, is on listening, followed by a class on speaking, followed a class by reading and writing, followed by a class in Arabic grammar. And this goes for Monday until Thursday. And through these days, the main emphasis that they just put on you is vocabulary. The most important thing they put emphasis on you is vocabulary. Whether it's in terms of speaking or reading or writing or listening, they put a big emphasis on vocabulary. And this goes through for 1 year, or rather 2 standard semesters in the university.
Or 1 year and a summer semester. So 1 year, you can say maybe 1 year and a half, kind of. Not really, but like you said, first class will be istima', and then it will be kitaba, and it will be qawaid, and then tahadduth. And correct me if I'm wrong, it starts from 8 o'clock in the morning, finishes 2 o'clock in the afternoon with 1 hour break in between for dhuhr.
Yeah, that's right. So the classes usually last for 1 hour and 15 minutes with a 15-minute break in between. And then it's not only until between the third and the last class, there's just like an hour break, more or less, for you to go and pray and have your lunch.
So how was the Arabic center? Would you say you struggled to learn Arabic in the beginning? Were you taking extra classes to supplement, or like how was your experience basically, and what's something that you remember from your days in the Markaz?
Honestly, looking back at the Markaz, I'd say that I benefited extremely for it. Because by the end of the Markaz, even though my Arabic was not really strong, it got to a level that I never really expected to get at, right? The fact that I was able to sometimes communicate with certain people and be able to understand what they were telling me, and basically kind of be able to kind of survive in the Arab world, at least to some extent, made me feel like, I benefited a lot from it. However, the truth is that it was a bit of a struggle, especially at the very beginning, right? Because as the teacher was teaching in Arabic and progressing in Arabic, it was a bit difficult for me because at that point I didn't really know much of the language. The most I knew was, how to say salam and how to say alhamdulillah if I ask how I am. And maybe I knew like a couple rules regarding Arabic grammar. But aside from that, I was pretty much clueless. But it wasn't until the second semester that now I was a bit able to keep up. But my issue was that I was fully depending on the classes, right? I believe that the language center is really good to get you to a strong foundational level. However, that strong foundational level, you can only get to it if you put extra effort outside the classes.
Yes.
Why? Because as it says in the name of the program, it's an intensive Arabic program, right?
Yes.
So you're going to be progressing through it pretty fast.
Yep.
So now you cannot expect to attend a class on Monday and Tuesday be a different class and Wednesday be a different class and Thursday be a different class and expect yourself to understand and have everything memorized of vocabulary, of grammar structures, of sentences structures, and think that, you're going to have it, solidly just by attending the class.
Yes.
Rather, you need to come after class and try to apply what you learn in different places.
Yes.
If when you move to different topics, try to apply what you learned in previous topics, right? For example, let's say you enter in the topic about Hajj and Umrah. Now you can go back to the topic where you learned about housing and living and apply terms that you didn't know that you learned back then to this new topic, like usafiru and askunu and things like funduk, right? However, if you think that you can just attend the classes
and that'll be enough
from 8 to 2 o'clock, and that'll be enough, and you can rest. By the end of the year, inshallah, you're going to be speaking fluent Arabic. Then that's a big mistake and something to avoid. Rather, you have to put your effort. Yes, I believe that if the course was 2 years, it would be a bit better. However, the teachers are highly qualified. They know what they're doing. You have 100%. To trust the process.
100%.
However, you have to do your due diligence outside 100%. The classes to do extra effort, because if you're going to just depend on 1 year, you're not going to see too much success once you move to the kulliyah.
100%, mashallah. You said Ustaz Osama, but subhanallah, even I've met students from Jamia Islamiyah in Madinah, and they study 2 years instead of 1 year. Qasimiyah you study 1 year, there you study 2 years, and even then the students feel like they're not ready for kulliyah. I feel like you'll never feel ready to go to kulliyah.
Yeah.
But one year, I see that okay, maybe for some students you're not going to be complete, but you can still understand a lot.
That's right.
And you learnt a lot. You said before that you focus a lot on vocabulary.
Yeah.
I think that's also because of the curriculum they use. Arabiya Bain Yadayk, they don't start Qawaid, they don't start like actual Nahu until book 2.
Yeah, until book 2.
Until book 2. So book 1 is just, I remember you even learn how to write the letters at the first. Maybe the Markaz skips that, but moving on. Tell me about the different faculties that Al-Qasimia University has to offer, and why did you choose Sharia?
Right.
And if you can tell me what does one study in each faculty, in each specialization, and maybe the differences with the Islamic University Madinah. I keep on referring to Islamic University Madinah because most people are familiar with it.
Yep.
That's why. But what are some differences, or basically the faculties in Al-Qasimiyah?
Yeah. So Al-Qasimia University is a pretty new university in comparison to many of the other Islamic universities.
Yes.
However, right now they have available 5 faculties. First of them being the Faculty of Sharia.
Yes.
Which is divided into 2 specializations. They have the specialization in Fiqh and Usool Fiqh, which is Islamic jurisprudence and its foundations. And then they have Usool Din, which is the foundations of religion. And now in Fiqh and Usool Fiqh is where you focus and learn about Islamic rulings to the actions that all of us do from a personal level all the way to governmental level, right? All the way to the level of a country. And where you also learn how we derive rulings and come to understand what are the rulings behind our actions. And then in the foundations of religion is where you mainly focus on the Islamic creed and Islamic beliefs, and you come to learn about different sects, different religions. You come to learn about different stories in the Quran regarding the prophets, and make sure that you have a well-grounded understanding of the religion. Then we have the faculty of Quran. The faculty of Quran there is divided into two specializations. We have first Tafseer and Ulum al-Quran, which is exegesis and Quranic science, right? And
It's like meanings of the Quran, basically.
yeah, so that is where you learn to do where they teach you tafsir of the Quran, but also how the scholars do this tafsir of the Quran, and where you also learn Islamic, where you learn Quranic sciences. And in Quranic sciences, I mean the things that will lead you to fully understanding and grasping this tafsir. So things relating to how the Quran was revealed, to an-nasikh wal mansukh, things verses that were abrogated, the history of the Quran, how we got from the time of the Prophet until sallallahu alaihi wasallam until us today.
Yes.
Things relating to reasons for certain verses coming down, right? They also learn about Rasm al-Mushaf, how the Quran is written and how the dots are written and the harakat are put.
Yes.
And then you also have the specialization in Qira'at, and in Qira'at is where you learn about 10 different recitations of the Quran. Then you also have the faculty of Arts and Humanities, and it's divided into two specializations. The first one is Arabic language, where you learn and go in depth regarding the Arabic language and its sciences. So anything relating to Nahwu and Sarf and Balagha and Al-Urud, that's where you learn it.
Also, it goes into a bit of linguistics as well.
Yeah, and you also learn about linguistics and how to, basically how language works to begin with from a very foundational level.
Yes.
And the second specialization is Islamic history and Islamic civilizations. And it's where you learn about how Islam progressed through the times, how Islam exists in different communities, because as you may know, there is Islam in different countries. However, these countries are very different between themselves, yet you know, you can confidently say that this is an Islamic country. What things make it Islamic? And you can also learn about certain misconceptions regarding Islamic history that you can also clear out. Then we have the Faculty of Economics, and there is like any faculty of economics in the world, where you learn things relating to business and administration in general. And finally, we have the Faculty of Mass Communication, and that's where you learn matters and sciences related to media, newspaper, television, radio, and things along those lines.
Okay, that's interesting. You mentioned the Faculty of Arts and Humanities has a specialization in Islamic history and civilization. I looked through the subjects they study on that specialization. It's actually really interesting. They study time of the Khilafah or the civilization of the Umayyah, Abbasiyya.
That's right.
The Safavids, all the other ones, the Mamalik, or also the Ottomans. And then you also study Islamic civilization of today. Not just in history of today. For example, there's a subject called Al-Islam fi Sharq al-Awsat.
That's right.
Islam in the Middle East. But there's also Islam in Southeast Asia. How Islam spread there, how the Islamic community is there. It's really, really interesting. Also, Islam in West Africa. You know, I feel like if I didn't go into Sharia, that is probably one of the civilizations that I would love to go into and learn more. But going back to you, why did you choose Sharia?
Now, initially, I chose the faculty of Quran, and the reason for that was because that's pretty much like the most we knew about in our community, or like in general throughout Europe, right?
So you applied to Quran?
Yeah, I applied to Quran, and that's like, you know, the foundational, like, you know, piece that our religion branches out from.
Yep.
So I applied for Quran, and after completing the language center, I got put into the College of Quran.
Yep.
However, eventually I decided to make the shift to the College of Sharia, and the reason for switching to the College of Sharia was because I found that the things that I've learned in the College of Quran, it will benefit me more if I go and learn it through the College of Sharia, right? Because when it comes to going back to your country, a lot of the things that they'll ask you is what's the ruling regarding this and what's the ruling regarding that, rather than, you know, how do you read this verse, how do you read that verse. And the second part is that being able to memorize the Quran was made easy for me when I arrived to this country, having found that it's been made available for free for those living in this city, right?
Yes.
So I took the opportunity and applied for that. So now I have the Quran on one side and I'm learning Sharia on the other side.
Okay.
And like that, it comes together. And the other thing is that in the College Sharia, we don't go past the page, except that it comes with a verse of the Quran that we have to learn the ruling from as well. So I found that learning the religion through a more practical method will benefit me more than going through the theoretical from the very beginning through the Quran.
Okay, so you first in Quran, but then you switched. You
Yep.
made the switch. Okay, I see. So can you tell me? So you're in Fiqh.
Yeah.
You're in Sharia, specialization of Fiqh and Usool Fiqh.
Yeah, that's right.
So can you go more into detail, like what sort of topics you cover, what kind of books you guys cover in the college?
Yep.
And like in general, يعني well, actually, yeah, that's the question I'll give to you.
Okay. So, in terms of topics that we cover here at the university in Fiqh and Usool Fiqh, there's quite several topics that we go over, right? So, the course, the study at the colleges lasts for 4 years roughly. Some students may do 3 years, they can complete in 3 years, right? But in general, for the average student, it's going to be 4 years. And there's a quite large amount of courses that you go over. I believe right now is around 47 classes, including the subjects that everyone in the university studies. So now in the Faculty of Sharia, in the specialization of Fiqh and Usool Fiqh, you're going to find that in the first year, you're going to learn some of the foundational sciences. So in the first year, you're going to find science of hadith. And there is where you learn about the history of the hadith and its preservation, the history of the science of hadith. You're going to learn about the validity of the hadith being used as a source of legislation. You're going to learn about how the hadith are divided, how they are categorized, right? You also learn about different scholars of hadith and the books that they've written and their importance in this science and in protecting our religion. You'll also learn about the chains of narrations and the men inside them, you know, Silsilatul Rijal. You also learn about what causes a hadith to be weakened or strengthened or be accepted or rejected. So that's one of the subjects, studies of hadith. You also learn science of Quran, which is where you learn things like what is the Quran to begin with, how is it different to Hadith al-Qudsi, for example. You learn about the reasons of revelation. You learn about how the Quran was revealed. You learn about the order of the ayats and the order of the surah and what the benefit in this relation between them. So that's what you learn in the sense of Quran. You also learn introduction to Islamic jurisprudence.
Madkhal Fiqh Islami.
Madhab Fiqh Islami. And that's why you learn pretty much the history of fiqh, how it started from the time of the Prophet and how it got to us today, and what are the different stages that we went through and how they differ from each other.
Yes.
Right? And you also go into learn about Islamic Aqidah. So you learn about the 6 pillars of Iman in a lot of depth. So being able to understand this class is very beneficial for any student, any Muslim student really.
Yes.
Right? And then you go through jurisprudence of purification prayer, where you learn about ablution, ghusl, the pillars of prayer, the sunnah of the prayer,
Yes.
the different types of prayer that are available,
Yes.
and how this goes together, things that every Muslim should be familiar with. So as you can see, the first year is like on things very basic. It goes into other specializations,
Yes.
but are very important for all the students, right?
Yes.
On the second year is when you learn about jurisprudence of transactions,
Yes.
right?
Mu'amalat.
Mu'amalat. How do you
Buying and selling.
How do you buy and sell? How do you rent items? What are the
Yes.
rulings between in buying and selling? What
Yeah.
are the pillars of these things, right?
Ruling on making a contract. And,
Yeah.
Yes.
You also learn. We have Usool of Fiqh, which is principally divided into 3 classes. And Usool of Fiqh 1 is where you learn about the Islamic rulings. So you learn about what is wajib, what is sunnah, what is mandub, what is makruh, what is haram.
This one is
And
أصول فقه مصادر التشريع صح؟
No, Usool of Fiqh, حكم الشرعي والدلالات.
حكم الشرع والدلالات. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So حكم الشرعي will be these 5 rulings,
Yeah.
and you go into a lot of detail into each of them.
Yeah.
And the second part is dalalat, which is where you go into how do you
Understand the text.
understand the text of the
Yes.
Quran, right? How do you
أمر means وجوب.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you now, of course, as we all know, the text in the Quran and the Sunnah is written in Arabic,
Yes.
and this Arabic can come in different ways.
Yes.
Sometimes the text itself tells you something, and you understand directly. Sometimes the text will tell you something, but because of what it says and the way it's said, you can understand an additional meaning, right? So things like that is what helps you understand the Quran and the Sunnah. And then we have Usul Fiqh 2, which is Masadir al-Tashri', and that's where you learn about the source of legislation, right? So now we don't take our religion from just any source. It has to start from somewhere, and it starts from the Quran and the Sunnah, and then the other agreed upon ones are the ijma' and the qiyas, right? Because the Quran, the Islam came to be able to be applied for all times and all places.
Yep.
So you learn about this source of legislation in a general sense and how to interact with them, right? You also learn learning jurisprudence of zakat and fasting and hajj, and you also learn about research methodologies, how to write a research paper, how to search for a topic and write in a way that, where you protect the information and previous written works in the science or in the topic that you're writing about.
Basically, you have to do research.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. In an Islamic topic.
And then in the third year, that's when you go into jurisprudence of marriage and divorce, jurisprudence of inheritance, right?
Yes.
You learn about constitutional jurisprudence, how a Islamic country is run, and international relations of Islam, how Muslim countries interact with non-Muslim countries, or how Muslim countries interact between them, right? And you learn about jurisprudence of criminal law.
Basically, a fiqh of politics, basically.
Yeah, you start going to the politics, into how a country works, right?
Okay.
After moving from the personal level. And then in the final year is when you start going into the more in-depth subjects that now start to be more applied in our times, right? So you learn about rules of jurisprudence, which is basically Qawaid al-Fiqhiyyah, are general rules that apply to a lot of the different branches in fiqh. You learn about contemporary jurisprudential issues. So things that we are finding today that were not present at the time of the Prophet. So for example, using calculating when the full moon will be seen for Ramadan, determining the ruling on organ donation, right? Determining the ruling regarding abortion and things like that.
So stuff you would call fiqh al-nawazil.
Yeah, fiqh al-nawazil is one of its name.
Fiqh of today's problems that wasn't present in the time of the Prophet.
Right.
I see.
And then we also learn about contemporary financial issues. So how the banks work and modern ways that we do transactions, right? So for example, buy now and pay later, right?
Yes.
Things like that.
Yes.
How they, what's their Islamic ruling? And then we also have comparative fiqh. Comparative fiqh is pretty much learning on matters where the schools of thought have differed. So now you going over these matters and how to determine what's the strongest opinion, or how, let's say, an imam determined that this is the strongest opinion.
So, يعني, you all the fiqh that you learn, what madhab is the jami'ah? And do you learn just one madhab, the Hanbali madhab, for example, or is it all four? And like, what kind of books do you guys go through? I know Jamia Islamiyah, they go through a book called Bidayat al-Mujtahid.
Yep.
What about Jamiat Al-Qasimia?
Now, in Al-Jamiat Al-Qasimia, we go through all the four madhabs for every class pretty much, right? So you're going to find that in each class, every time you go into a specific masail on a specific topic, you're going to find that they'll mention the difference of opinion, they'll explain the evidence for each school of thought, right? Rather than only focusing on one madhab and moving forward with that. And I find that this approach is beneficial, and the reason why it works is because of the teachers who were given, because all of them, you're going to find that they're highly qualified in teaching this science, and not only that, but in being able to link this modern approach of understanding fiqh to the traditional approach that they used in their times, right? So you're going to find that even though we may be using more modern books, they'll always mention the scholars of the past. They'll always mention the books that they're written. They'll mention when they passed away, the people they interacted with, right? Then they mention the madhabs and things like that.
Yes.
And I find that this approach is also really beneficial for us students in Western countries or Westernized country, because in our communities, it's not like we live in a Muslim country. Therefore, we have many communities coming from different places of the world here interacting with each other. So now, being ignorant of the fact that there may be differences of opinion that are acceptable, that are a minor issue that you shouldn't be fighting over, is what can repel a lot of these problems, right? And honestly, something that I did face at some point when I moved to the UK, where I ran into someone, one of my classmates, and then he was like, how do I do this thing in prayer? And I said, I'll do it this way. And then he was like, no, that's the wrong way of doing it, right? But then it wasn't until I came here that I realized, wait, it was not wrong. It was simply that different opinion that, you know, there's never been an agreement on it to begin with, right?
The khilaf is long, yani.
The khilaf is long and still going, right?
Yes.
So it's not a topic that you can really close out. But he said straight out loud, just like that. So, and I wasn't aware of madhabs at that time.
Yes.
Another thing of this approach also is that it gives you an appreciation of differences of opinion between the madhabs. Because
it makes you more open.
Yeah, it makes you not just like more open, but also it makes you realize the effort that they went through to protect this religion.
Yes.
And it also makes you aware of the two extremes. Some people go to the extreme of fanatism and saying like, of sticking to their madhabs, even if on a certain matter they may be clearly wrong. And then there's the other issue of people who accept difference of opinion, but then they take any opinion, right? As long as the opinion exists, they take it right away, right?
They call it tatabbu' al-rukhas.
Exactly.
They follow the easiest opinion always.
Yeah, but it's not simply taking the easiest opinion, but also taking the fact that anyone said an opinion to begin with. So it could have been through any methodology, and they're like, this opinion exists, therefore I'll take it. But that's not the case. You come to learn with comparative fiqh that there's a methodology, a way that they start from the Quran and the Sunnah, right? Before ending up on that ruling. Rather, they don't make it out of thin air.
It's not about what's easiest for you, rather it's what's closest to Quran and Sunnah.
Exactly.
That's what your point of tarjih should be.
Exactly, right? And that's why Aqidah becomes really important for the Muslim, right? Because now if your Aqidah is strong, the way that you approach the religion is going to be very different. Now, are you approaching this issue so you can get back at someone, or are you approaching this issue because Allah said that, you know, this is the way to do it? For example, some people, they may have some family issues. They may personally feel like cutting ties with the family. But if their aqidah is strong, and then they run into the ruling that says it's haram to cut ties of kinship, they're not going to cut the ties of kinship, right? But then someone who may have, you know, this accepting any opinion approach, you may find them that they'll go and find an opinion that only applies to an extreme case, but they'll take it and be like, oh, the extreme exists for the extreme case, therefore it must apply to my, you know, less extreme case, right? So you
I know some people who they search for the oddest fatwa, that if you actually read the question from the person that's asking for the fatwa, The situation is completely different.
Yeah, that's right.
And the Sheikh's answer is actually for a different situation completely. But they just try to use that Sheikh's answer to apply to their daily lives. And that's where a lot of people, they go into dalal يعني.
Yeah.
Musta'an. But you mentioned that basically the Jami'ah, they use modern books. Books basically written by the Jami'ah itself, by the Dakatir of the Jami'ah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you now. For example, someone that's studying in a traditional circle of knowledge, halaqah, they would study traditional books.
That's right.
For example, in fiqh, maybe they would pick up Matan Abi Shuja' in fiqh Shafi'i. In Usool fiqh, they would study Al-Waraqat. In Nahu, they would study Al-Ajrumiyah. All these famous traditional books written centuries ago. What do you think is better? A person that focuses on and studies the modern books written by people our time, or do we still need to learn and study the books that were written centuries ago?
This is more of my personal opinion and not a scholarly opinion. And I'd say that both methods are valid. However, they must be done in the correct environment, right? So going through traditional texts, it also has a methodology of being done. You cannot just take the traditional text, sit in your room, and just read it just like that and be like, now I understand the science by myself just like that. You have to go back to the scholars. And with modern books, the things that you find, for example, the books written by our professors, you find that a lot of the masail that they write is not something new that they came up. They always go back to the previous written books, right? If you look at the footnotes, you always see hundreds of references to the previous written books. But why did they make these books? To make the science more approachable under this methodology. So now let's say that you want to learn about the different types of water and the rulings for each type, rather than having to open a different book. Now they have it all here, and in the footnote you can go and read the scholar who wrote about this matter, the book that they written it, the page that they written it, and it also helps in the sense that now that the older books, they may have been written in a way that may be difficult for someone of today to understand by themselves, right? But now, if a student comes here, studies with a teacher, they can go back and revise this book and find themselves able to understand it by themselves to some extent. And if they have an issue, they can return back to the teacher without a problem, right? But 100%. Sometimes you may find that in other books, or for example in some sciences, is written in the form of the text is written in manzuma form, in the form of a poem, right? So that may not be something that someone like that's new to the Arabic language can just pick up and start reading, or read and then be like, okay, I have a question on this topic, I'm going to ask, right? So that's my view on this matter. So yeah, the content is rooted to the classical scholarship, but both ways have their benefits and they have their downsides.
Okay, mashallah, tabarakallah. You mentioned before in fiqh usool, or fiqh usool fiqh yani, we study fiqh, and you study a subject called usool fiqh, and there's also Qawaid Fiqhiyyah. What's the difference between all of them? Because they all have fiqh in them, in the name. So, and what's the difference between all of them?
So, fiqh, what fiqh is to have knowledge and understanding of the rulings of the person by deriving the ruling from the specific evidences. What this means is every action that we do, it has a ruling. This ruling can either be compulsory, or it can be sunnah or recommended, or it can be permissible, or it can be disliked, or it can be forbidden. But now, to determine what ruling applies to this action that you do, you have to go and look at the detailed evidence, and the detailed evidence is verses of the Quran or part of the verses of the Quran. So, for example, going and performing prayer, it is compulsory because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, and we say it's specific evidences or detailed evidences is because we only look at this part of the verse when the full ayah starts from وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, right? So it's specific to a part of the verse, right? Or let's say fasting, right, is written kutiba alaykum as-siyamu, right? It has been prescribed upon you to fast, right? So this is what fiqh is, where you look at the actions of the individual, but we don't know the ruling first.
Yep.
It's only after we look at the evidence that then we can determine what's the ruling that applies this, and that's how we learn it. Then there's Usool al-Fiqh. Usool al-Fiqh, in simple terms, it's first knowing the sources of legislation. Where can we get our rulings from, right? And once you know the source of legislation, how do we benefit from them? How can we interact with them in a general sense to determine rulings? So, for example, the Quran and the Sunnah, as explained before, they're written in Arabic language, and the sentences can come in different forms, right? So now, when I run into these sentences, these type of sentences, some sentences come as order, some come as provision, some come in a general sense, some come in a specific sense. Some verses are related to other verses, right? Some verses apply only to a specific group, while some verses apply to a larger group, right? So now, how do we benefit from these different verses or these different hadith? What we do is we learn usul al-fiqh, and then the last part for usul al-fiqh is learning the, let's say, the status of the person benefiting from it. So is this person someone who has knowledge in fiqh, so they can determine the ruling by themselves, or is it someone who perhaps needs to ask someone of knowledge? So what we call a mustafti, the one asking for the ruling, right? So these two, they interact with the verses in different ways. So someone who has no knowledge of this, what the source of legislation are, how to interact with them, he wouldn't just go and do it by himself. Rather, he will ask a person of knowledge to give them the ruling on this matter. And then Qawaid al-Fiqhiyyah, they are general rules that scholars have derived from the Quran and the Sunnah that apply to different branches in Islam, right? And basically the way that works is, for example, there's a qaida that says al-umuru bi-maqasidiha. That basically the matters are with their intention or with their goal or with the objective, right? So now when you do an action, what is your objective with it? And based on this intention, based on this objective that you have, this action can be accepted as an act of worship, or it can be rejected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you did it for other purposes, such as showing off. So for example, the act of praying, it's an act of worship, right? But what if you only went to pray just to show off in front of people, but in your mind you were not even thinking about Allah? Here this qaida applies, right? And it applies to many other things. So yeah, this is the general difference between them.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. The four madhab,
Yeah.
I want to know, why are there four madhab in Islam? Why can't there just be one madhab everyone follows, everyone prays the same? Wouldn't that be everyone be in harmony? Where did these madhab came from? And also, can we just why don't we just follow the Quran and Sunnah? Why do we have to follow what Imam al-Shafi'i or Imam Malik or Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Ahmad, rahmatullahi alayhim jami'an? Why do we have to follow what they say? Why can't we just follow directly the Quran and Sunnah?
Yeah.
I know it's a bit a heavy question, but
no, it's okay. So a general misunderstanding that people have is that they tend to differentiate between Quran and Sunnah and between madhabs, thinking that they are two separate matters. But rather, the madhabs are simply methods or simply paths of how we approach the Quran and the Sunnah. And the reason this is because differences between people are natural and they always happen, right? So now, even at the time of the Prophet, his companions, radiallahu alayhim jami'an, they differed in a lot of matters, and they didn't even come to an agreement until they came to the Prophet. And in some matters, the Prophet made them realize that even the disagreement was approved, right? So now, as Islam started to spread in different lands after passing away of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you come to find that the scholars coming about from different regions, and there's different situations that are a bit different from the situation of the Arabs. So, for example, Imam Abu Hanifa, who was the Imam in Kufa, you come to find that not many ahadith made to him at that point. He had many ahadith available to him. That's undeniable, right? He had the Quran as well. That's undeniable. However, there was a big difference between the people of Kufa and the Arabs that were in Mecca and Medina.
The Sahaba were in Mecca, Medina more.
Exactly,
so,
right?
Yeah.
So now, if someone came to Kufa claiming that the Prophet ﷺ said so and so, now he has to be more strict in accepting this thing that he's saying, right? Because it's not as simple as saying that the people around him are trustworthy people. Rather, a new man that they don't know much about him, or he said maybe he's not a person of knowledge, came and said the statement and attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. Right. So now, in his case, he has to be more careful in accepting that statement. Is it proved or is it not proved? Right. And then in the case of other madhabs, for example, Imam Malik, who was the Imam of Darul Hijrah, the Imam of Medina, right? You come to find that he accepted the actions of the people of Medina as evidence for our actions today. Why? Because that's the place of the Prophet Muhammad, the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So, since the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these are his people, he says that taking their actions as evidence, is a valid approach to fiqh, right? While others may reject this, they may say that no, the people are not infallible, that therefore we cannot take their approach, right? So these differences begin to exist between them, right? But one thing that they'll always agree on what their starting point will always be the Quran and the Sunnah. They will never just sit there and make an opinion out of thin air. And the other part is that all of them have said at some point that if a hadith comes and you come to find out that it's actually certainly Sahih hadith accepted, right? That is my madhab. Like take the hadith and leave what I said.
إذا صح الحديث فهو مذهبي.
فهو مذهبي, right? So that's why you also see within a madhab it changes over time. Why? Because you see that they come to accept things that at the beginning they were not accepted in the madhab, right? Or you see that they begin to reject things they initially accepted in the madhab, right? So you come to find at the end that in our day-to-day life and the things that apply, there is more things that we agree on than things that we differ on. In fact, the things that we differ on, like that have an actual effect, are very little in comparison to all the things that the scholars have agreed on. It's just that usually when people start talking about madhabs, they only focus on the differences, forgetting about the things that we agreed on to begin with. So the reason why I go to madhabs is because they give us a structured methodology of approaching the religion. Now, if you open the Quran, you have Surah Al-Fatiha, then Surah Al-Baqarah, then Surah Al-Imran. It's not in the order that you may find in the books of hadith or in the books of fiqh. Now, you open the book of fiqh, it starts with tahara, or starts with rather. Some books start with aqidah, some basic aqidah, then tahara, then salah, then zakat, then saum, right? But this is not the order that came in the Quran. Rather, the Quran came in an order out of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He knows best the effect that it has on us, right? But why did we take and make it a structured method? To make it easier for us to understand, right? And He also shows the difference between the people who actually put an effort to understand the religion and people who say like, oh, because it's confusing, I'm just going to do it the way I want, right? So he also, this order of the Quran came in, he also highlights the people who are truthfully approaching the religion because they want to do what Allah commanded them, and the people who approach the religion just to do the things the way they wish.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I think a massive misconception about madhahib, when people they can't really wrap their heads around following a madhab, is because they think the madhab is what the Imam said.
That's right.
Rather, the madhab is a whole school of thought. That's why they translate madhab as school of thought. Because there's a whole madrasa, a whole school on how to understand the Quran and Sunnah. It's thousands and hundreds of years of scholarly work. You'll find that a lot of the times a Shafi'i scholar will go against what Imam Shafi'i said. because after going through a hadith, maybe some hadith, the Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he's a mujtahid in himself, but no one is ma'soom. No one is safe from mistakes except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the rest of the prophets. But any person, any man, no matter how great he is, he has mistakes. But you find that sometimes even a later student or a scholar of the madhab, they will go against the imam of his actual madhab.
Yeah.
But for example, I think Al-Juwayni, sometimes he would say, Imam Shafi'i said this, but what he actually meant, if he saw this hadith, he would say with this opinion.
That's right.
You know, always the ruju', what we go back to is the Quran and Sunnah.
Yeah, and another thing is that a lot of these scholars, they invested their entire lives just to the pursuit of understanding the Quran and the Sunnah the way that it should be understood, right? A lot of people think that, or maybe the Imam made the opinion out of thin air, but if you were to see the preferences of a lot of the Imams and what comes in the books of Fiqh, you're going to find that, you know, it doesn't benefit them in any way, right? If they were to make Fiqh the way that they wanted, you will have found that they will have said such and such thing, but rather you find that they adapted the way of life to fit with the Quran and Sunnah, right? If something was difficult for them, they still pursued it because they learnt that it's Sunnah, and that's the method of our Salaf, where if they learn something is Sunnah, they go and do it. If they learn something is makruh, they leave it away. Even though that nowadays you may see that some people they do the opposite. If they learn something is Sunnah, they may leave it, and if they learn something is just makruh, they may go and do it.
Yeah. Let's step away from Faculty of Sharia and just talk about Jamia in general. How is life like in Jamia? Well, it's something that, let's say, something that you'll always remember that happened in your life during Jamia.
Honestly, for me, the biggest thing that, you know, that affected me in this university was the professors that we have. All of them, they have different approaches to teaching, and I've benefited greatly from all of them, and I hope that inshallah I may be able to apply some of what I learned from them in the future.
Inshallah.
And one thing that none of them ever left out was giving us advice. Giving us not only advice in learning the deen, but giving us advice in how to approach our life. And I'd say that's like the thing that was the catalyst in me suddenly becoming more leaning towards being a student of knowledge, right? Because at the beginning, the way I approached it was like a regular school, you know, attend, revise a bit, do exams, and you know, leave it, right? Khalas. But then it changed when certain teachers, they gave us certain advice that started to affect in me. For example, one of the teachers, they told us that this study of the university is not the final goal. It's simply the key to the knowledge, right? This study of the university, you cannot come out of the university and say that, you know, now you're the mufti of the country.
Yeah, you're not a sheikh.
You're not the sheikh after graduating from university. After graduating from the university, that's when the real knowledge starts. That's when you can actually open the books and start reading them without deviating, because now you learn the foundations from the university. Even though you go into many topics in a lot of depth, now it's only when the actual knowledge starts. And the second thing that they told us is, when you go back to your countries, people are going to come to you asking questions. And some of them are going to be on simple matters. And these people are not going to wait for you to go back to collect your books and notes to make sure that you can revise what is written so you can give them an answer. Some people, they will expect an answer directly from you, right? So you cannot treat it as something that, you know, you do an exam, you pass it, and then you forget about it. But rather, it's something that you have to revise constantly. And it was at that point that, you know, I started to focus more on this seeking of knowledge, and it started to affect in the way I see things, right? And going back to old subjects that maybe I didn't understand when I didn't speak too much Arabic, and realizing the amount of benefit that I was missing out on not revising the subject.
MashaAllah.
And life at the university, honestly, is pretty easy and pretty simple, right? And the amount of benefits that we get here are benefits that you're not going to see in many other universities, right? Many of the other big universities, the things that you get here, you may not find them there.
Well, what are the benefits of the scholarship? You're on the scholarship, sir?
Yeah, I'm on the scholarship. So among the benefits of the scholarship is that you get free accommodation. right?
Yes.
And this free accommodation, it comes in a place where you have a free AC. This is a very hot country where you have AC running 24/7 without any issue. You don't pay anything from it.
Yes.
You get electricity. You get free Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Right?
High class facilities, honestly.
Yeah. Free Wi-Fi. You get running water. You get also hot water, right?
Yes.
Electricity. You can have plugs, sockets. You even get wardrobes to put all your stuff in. You have a fridge if you want to store something inside it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. They give you a fridge.
Yeah. You get free food, 3 meals a day, every day.
The Madhab is free, guys. Cafeteria is free. They give you free food, 3 meals every day, free.
3 meals every day for free, right? So you don't have, and why is that? So you don't have to worry about, I have to go work so I can cover this thing, or maybe the month is about to finish,
Yes.
and I don't have money to go work on this thing.
Yes.
And
They give you monthly stipend as well.
Yeah, they give you
on
more.
top of free tuition.
Yeah. So the free tuition as well.
Yes.
You get to learn at a university level, access to teachers pretty much anytime. For any questions, totally for free, right? And a great thing is that the fun about our professors here is that they love their jobs, right?
100%.
Many of the professors, if it wasn't because of the time limits of the time they have to go back home or the responsibilities, some professors, they will stay with us until the time of Isha,
Yes.
right?
Yes. 100%.
Some professors, sometimes they will come extremely early to teach us in the mornings, or some teachers, they will stay really late to teach us something that we may have missed out, even though their work day had already finished 3-4 hours ago, right? They only stay just to teach the students. Sometimes they will go into certain topics and make them really long,
Yes.
just so you understand a certain matters, mentioning many examples to make sure that you understand it really well.
Yeah, repeating the topic again and again.
Yeah. Some teachers, they'll have their offices opening at any time that you can go and visit them. If you cannot visit them, you can send them an email and you find that they reply to you within minutes, hours, or within a day.
Not only that, on WhatsApp.
Sometimes,
we
yeah,
have the numbers on WhatsApp. Yeah,
Exactly,
some of them very nice. You can just ask a mas'ala on WhatsApp and they'll answer. Yeah.
Then say, right. So, and honestly, and they're really, really approachable.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, Allah
So
bless
I've never found a situation where a teacher was like, "Oh, you don't really know this." Rather, I asked the question, and the teacher, not only did he reply to my question, but he clarified it and explained it with even more details than I expected.
Yes, 100%. Also, I know some teachers who do makeup lessons, akhi. On the weekends, when we're supposed to be resting, they'll call us to class.
Exactly.
Or they'll make a Zoom class and teach us more.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Some teachers, they'll go above and beyond to make sure that the students really understand the subject. Even if someone doesn't want to study, he's going to come out knowing the subject better than certain other people.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. All right, Ustaz Osama, I want to ask you, someone who's interested to study overseas, study, maybe go Jamia Islamiyah, maybe even go Egypt, Jordan, anywhere in the world to study Islam overseas. I want to ask you, what's an advice that you want to tell them before they go overseas? What's something that they should do to prepare themselves? And number two, let's say if they go to a Jamia, what faculty do you think is best suited for a person from the West?
Okay. So I'd say before anyone travels to study at a Islamic university or travel abroad in general, is first to make sure that they have the right intention for it, right? So the goal for seeking knowledge is primarily to remove ignorance from yourself and to remove ignorance from those around you, right? So that's a proper intention to have, because why you're trying to remove this ignorance? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make sure that you do not approach the religion in a way that that he does not like, right? Second thing I'd say is, for those coming to learn Islamic sciences, is make sure to learn as much Arabic as you can. Even if you're going to be put into a language program, make sure to learn as much Arabic as you can in a consistent manner. And the reason for that is because so you can make the most out of these Arabic programs from the first day, right? Because a mistake a lot of people do is that they think that it will come naturally to them. Like, oh, I'm in an Arabic country, people will speak to me in Arabic, I'll absorb it. But the reality is, you have to make a conscious effort in trying to understand, right? You cannot be like, we'll listen to what they say and then I'll eventually know what they mean. But rather, you have to go out of your way to be like, hey, this word, what does it mean? Or like write it down and search what does it mean, right? Also, because what you want to do is that by the time that you finish the language program, you want to enter the college being able to benefit from day one. You don't want to enter the college struggling to understand the teacher and having to write notes on the things that are on the book. Rather, you want to write notes on the teacher saying that are extra benefits, because a lot of the benefits that we hear from the teachers are things that we wouldn't even find out until maybe 30 or 40 years later, after thorough research, right?
Yes.
And the second part, for those doing Islamic sciences, is memorize as much as you can from the Quran. And the reason for that is because not a single subject that you will study goes away from the Quran and the Sunnah. And the Quran will always be the first evidence that they'll bring forward, right? So now, it's going to be a big ask if you enter into a subject, you don't know the Quran, and they're asking you to memorize a verse for this issue, a verse for this issue, a verse from that issue. And it becomes even harder if on the side you also have a Quran class, right? So now you're memorizing Quran in order from one end, but then here you're trying to memorize verses from here, there, and there. So it becomes perhaps too much of a task upon the student if he has not put this effort. And the bigger reason for doing all of this beforehand is so you have this built up discipline and understanding the manners of approaching studying, right? A lot of people, they may end up entering Islamic institution, but not being familiar with the whole process of what it takes to be a student of knowledge, what it takes to actually study. And for those that have already been accepted and are about to start perhaps, or they know that they're going to be starting soon, the main advice I'd give is, if you cannot do it every day, do it at least every week, which is revise what you covered in the subject. And the reason for that is because you do not want to be studying the subjects just to pass the exams.
Yes.
You want to be studying these subjects so the knowledge stays with you.
Yes.
And if for each subject you're covering an entire book of 300 or more pages, and you have 5 subjects, you're going to find that you're going to start forgetting stuff if you just attend the class and leave it. If your knowledge is restricted to your time attending the class, you're going to find that you will not remember a lot of vital issues.
Yes.
So always make sure to revise everything that you're covering in class.
I think a good, I heard a quote someone said, or I think it was Sheikh who said it, said, Lawla al-muraja'a, or if it's not because of revision, everyone who's ever learned something will become an alim. Because if you only had to learn something once, how many people have attended many duroos, many lectures, but they're not alim? Why? Because they don't revise what they learn.
That's right.
Likewise, some scholars, they actually give a shart, a condition for a person to be a mufti, that they have to finish a book in fiqh every year.
Every year, yeah.
So muraja'a is very important.
Yeah, it's very important. And it's one thing that many professors mention, that the graduates from universities are many. But those who actually, maintain this knowledge are very few, very, very few in number, right? So sometimes you have people who, they will go to a Islamic university, graduate, come back after 6 years, but they still don't really understand Arabic. You'll find that they still don't really understand the Islamic sciences. You ask them something basic about the Quran, like how was the Quran compiled, something like that, they will not know things like this, right?
There's no revision.
There's no revision, right? Perhaps they covered it throughout 2 weeks, this topic, 3 weeks, right, in the same class. But they didn't revise it, so they forgot about it, right?
100%.
So the graduates are many, but those who keep the knowledge are very few.
So then, what would you say is the best kulliyah? Someone wants to go Jamia Islamiyah or any Jamia. What's the best? What's the faculty you advise or you recommend for that person?
Personally, I would recommend to go into Fiqh and Usool Fiqh, and the reason for that is because, at least for this university, is because you also cover subjects related to the other specializations, And these subjects that you cover, they go in enough depth for you to not be entirely clueless in them. And the reason for specialization in fiqh is because a lot of the questions that people will come to you with are, is this halal or is this haram? Can I do this? Can I not do this, right? So that's why you go into fiqh. And a lot of these questions, they may be basic, like relating to prayer or fasting, or they may be more advanced, right? Someone will ask you about like genetically modified foods, right? Can you consume that? Things like that.
Yes.
So if you're ignorant about these matters, it kind of becomes an issue if you cannot approach it, right? However, when I say that fiqh and usul fiqh is the one I recommend, especially for those in the West, I don't mean that the other ones are like any less. I find that there's benefit in different specializations. So for example, aqidah is extremely important because yes, you do learn aqidah in fiqh and usul fiqh, but it's only in usul al-din where you actually go into depth on the matter, when you actually start learning about the stories of the prophets and the benefits out of them. We start learning about different sects, we start learning about different religions, we start covering many of the misconceptions that people come to you regarding your aqidah, right? And aqidah is one of the first things that you should be teaching people, because some people, their issue is not regarding knowing the ruling or not knowing the ruling, but rather having that attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some people, you find that all you need to do with them is teach them aqidah. Anything else regarding rulings, you find that they'll change within themselves before you even get to talking about the rulings, right? So you find brothers changing their manners and changing the way that they dress just from learning aqidah, and you haven't even entered on chapters regarding fiqh or regarding adab. So, and fiqh cannot exist without aqidah to begin with. Usool fiqh cannot exist without aqidah to begin with, right? And then there's also Tafseer and Quran sciences. The Quran is the foundation for our entire religion. That's where it all starts. And understanding it in depth can go to great lengths, right? And a lot of communities, perhaps just knowing the Quran is enough, because by learning the Quran by itself and Tafseer, you're gonna learn aqidah, you're gonna learn fiqh and usul fiqh, you're gonna learn Arabic language, you're gonna learn about Arabic sciences and things like that, right? You're gonna learn about previous societies, right? But there's also benefit in language, Arabic language. Why? Because we are in need of people who can speak the Arabic language in a high level. We are in need of people who can teach the Arabic language to a high level, or to a standard level at the very least, to a large group of people, right? Also and people who can actually read the Quran and the Hadith and perhaps come with benefits regarding the way that they were written, that perhaps someone from the other faculties wouldn't have realized about them, right? So, and also Islamic civilizations, because you come to learn about the history of Islam, how different Islamic countries differ between them, how we developed into the Islam that we are today, clear misconceptions about Islam on the past and how it spread and things like that. And there's also the faculty of Qira'at. And Qira'at, you know, it's important in a sense because it's part of preserving the Quran. The scholars of the past and in the present have gone to great lengths in preserving our Quran, and being someone who knows the 10 Qira'at, you become one of those people who protect this religion from being lost. But Alhamdulillah, Allah has promised us that this religion will exist until the end of times. So being amongst the people who fulfill this prophecy will make you amongst those in a high status in the eyes of Allah, inshallah.
Inshallah ta'ala. So basically, what I'm getting from your answer is that all the faculties are important, and it really depends on the person's desire or the person's interest. We need scholars in every single field of Islam. We need a scholar in fiqh, we need a scholar in aqidah, we need a scholar in hadith, tafsir, qira'at. Just because, you know, I know a lot of people, especially now, they say going to Sharia. Sharia is important, but we need other scholars as well. And don't choose a specialty just because someone told you to choose it. Rather choose something that you like.
Because what you find is that some of the people that I've seen that studied at the universities, is that they go into a faculty not because they wanted, but because they were taught to go into that faculty. But you come to find that they are not enjoying it at all.
Yes.
Or perhaps
It's 4 years, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a short time. It's 4
Yeah.
years. You're just studying one particular takhasus or specialty.
and sometimes you may find that even though that they are enjoying the subject, they're not enjoying the subject because of what it teaches, but they're enjoying it because of some other thing that's covered in it, right? So for example, you come to find that someone is, doing Quran and Tafseer, but you come to find that, the reason they're doing so much is about regarding the Arabic language part, right? And they wish to know more about the Arabic language to come to benefit more in this way, right? So, or someone doing fiqh and usul fiqh, but sometimes you find that their enjoyment comes from, it's linked to the aqidah, to show the greatness of this religion that Allah has brought us, right? So you come to find that, perhaps going to a certain specialization is more befitting for you than going to another. But at the same time, it's realizing what's the need of the people, right? So that's why I say fiqh and usul fiqh first, Sharia first, because if there's no one else, that'll be the starting point. That'll be what you will need, right? Obviously, there's other ways to go around this. So, for example, some people, they will learn Saudi Arabic, but learn fiqh on the side. Or they'll still aqidah and learn, fiqh to a certain level on the side. And they will not be missing out on these things.
Yes, 100%. People think just like you choose a faculty, khalas, that's your faculty for the rest of your life, or that's the only knowledge you're gonna gain for the rest of your life. Rather, a person, honestly, I believe a person that goes to any Jamia Islamiyah, any Islamic university, the Jamia itself, it's not enough. You have to study outside.
That's right.
You have to find a sheikh, or even study online, or find halaqah to study the other sciences that you might not be studying as much in the faculty. For a person, for example, I'm in Usool al-Din. I take extra fiqh classes outside because I know I'm not going to take certain fiqh subjects like mawarith, or I'm not going to take fiqh siyasa, all this stuff. I have to find a way to study these subjects outside the actual Jamia. Or for example, Qira'at, learning other Qira'at, or maybe advanced level in poetry. I have to take these classes outside.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Moving to, let's talk about the summer holidays. Or I want to actually ask you about someone that's studying in the Jamia Islamiyah, and when they go back to the country, what should they do? Should they start teaching? When does a person know they can teach or need to start teaching? Or what should a person do in the summer holidays, basically? Should they study more? Should they give dawrat, teach books? What have you done, Ustaz Osama, in your summer holidays, basically?
Yeah. So, obviously, the main goal of doing the Islamic sciences is that you'll be able to go back and teach the people of your country. And the main goal of that is to raise a community of people who properly understand their religion without having to be entirely dependent of going to an Islamic country to learn more. At the time of the previous scholars, the way that they learned is they learn everything that's around them before moving to other countries. But now it has switched to, like, we find people that they will only start learning after they move to the other countries, right? So the goal now is to be able to create a community of independent learners. Perhaps now the most we can get is people ready for university, right? But perhaps in future generations, they can,
They don't even need to go to university.
They don't even need to go to university, because you already see that in some communities where they're like raising and teaching muftis in their own locality.
I know some people who has never left the country, and they know more than people who graduated from Jamia Islamiyah.
There's many people like that, right?
Yes.
And they have deep understanding in these sciences, and all of that without leaving their city.
Yes.
Right. So obviously that's the main goal. However, there's other ways of this dawah being done. Why? Because, for example, you may find that the knowledge exists in the mosque, but it's not really following people to their day-to-day life, right?
Okay.
So sometimes you may have to go out of your way to learn social sciences. Why is it that people, they're so motivated in one place, but not so motivated outside of it, right? So the other goal is to create people who not only they have knowledge, but they're actually applying in their day-to-day life and affecting those around them. right? Because especially in the West, you're surrounded by people doing all kinds of things and all kinds of ideologies, right? So if you don't have a strong foundation, you're gonna start thinking that what they're doing is better, right? But fortunately for me, I was lucky. I was very fortunate because my parents, they taught me, not to do things. They taught me like the basics of the religion, right? So I never had a point where like, if I was a Muslim, I'd be able to do these things. I never had that cross my mind ever, right? Maybe I feel bad for missing out, but never regret it, Even if I didn't know why I cannot do it, I knew like it's for a good reason, but so I better stay away from it, right?
Yeah.
There. So when a student knowledge goes back to his country, either during summer holidays, I'd say that what's important for them is up to them, really. For some students, the most important thing is to do more revision. More revision on the subject that they covered, all the subjects they covered.
Yes.
Especially for those that, were pretty weak in Arabic, right?
Yeah.
So they can strengthen the Arabic,
Yes.
write down questions that they have, and go back to the teachers and
Yes.
ask them about these questions. For some other students, they may be more pressing matters. They may realize that the community is in need of those that will teach them, in need of people who will give khutbahs on certain topics that will benefit them, right? For some people, it's not just simply just giving khutbahs, but actually setting up classes or setting up perhaps online classes to give on the evenings and call the community to attend, right? Not only to a certain group of people, but to everyone, or perhaps making it for a certain group of people, right? Perhaps teach children that perhaps they wouldn't have someone else to learn from, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes you see many cases where mosques they open by people who came from other countries, right? But now they're worried about people from this country joining it, not because they don't want them to join, but because they don't know how to manage these like different ideologies coming in, right? So sometimes you may see that certain Muslim kids, they get left out of these benefits, right? So perhaps it depends on what the community needs, really.
Okay, but what do you say to those students? For example, I know some students who actually graduated from these Islamic universities. Imagine that they studied 4 years, 5 years, 6 years in an Islamic environment, in an Islamic institution. But then when they go back, they say, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready to teach, or I don't have enough knowledge. And what do I know? What do you say to these people? And I know, for example, let's use Birmingham, for example. Many graduates from Jamia Islamiyah, many of them do good, but you also find some of them, for many reasons, wallahu ta'ala alam, maybe they have the excuses, but they don't do anything with the knowledge that they learned. What do you think is the root cause, or something that can remedy this?
I think the main issue usually comes is a bit of imposter syndrome, because you will never feel ready, right? Because, for example, now I look at our professors and I'm thinking, I don't think I can ever be at this level that they're at, right? Because when they speak, it's just knowledge pouring out, just like that, right? But if I wanted to do that, I need to study for give me maybe 2-3 years to revise this one topic, and maybe I can do it to the same level, right? So there's always that imposter syndrome of you're comparing yourself to these people. Or for example, in our case that we see a lot, is some people, they lose motivation in learning Quran. Why? Because they get compared with children who memorize Quran from a young age, right? Now it's to them the feeling is like, oh, you can only memorize Quran at a young age, so why would I even try myself, right? Sometimes they will say the imam of their masjid is really knowledgeable, right? So a man that you can trust, and they know that their own faults. So to them it's like, oh, this imam is a great man, he's always in the masjid teaching people. Meanwhile me, in my free time I'm wasting it and doing this thing, that thing, or I'm doing this bad thing. So how can I stand next to this man when I'm this kind of person, right? However, in terms of knowledge, I don't think someone will ever feel ready until they do it. So when I went to the UK this last summer, I had to do 3 khutbahs, right? And honestly, I didn't feel ready, right? On my first khutbah, I watched back the video, it seemed normal, but the reality is that behind the minbar, my legs were literally shaking. It's the first time that I saw my legs shaking like that in real life. But so you never feel ready. But after second khutbah, I felt more comfortable. The third khutbah, made a big mistake in reciting the Quran in one of the verses. I mixed them up. But thanks to the experience in just the 2 khutbahs I did before, now I felt more comfortable. I was like, knew how to tackle it and just keep moving forward because no one's going to pay mind to it, right?
Yes.
And I can just rectify it and keep going.
Yes. MashaAllah.
So, of course, at the beginning, you're going to feel like you're not ready. You're going to feel like, your knowledge is not up to par. But no one is asking you to be, the Sheikh of Islam in your city, right? Simply, even basic things that you learn is enough. So, for example, we have the book of Aqidah. Even like 1/3, if you take just 1/3 of each matter, you're gonna find that it's gonna be more than enough. You don't have to go into doubts raised by this kind of people or the views of this sect. Like explaining in a simple way is gonna be more than enough for some people. For some people, they just need to learn how to read Quran. For some people, they need to learn how to benefit from reading Quran. For some people, they just need to learn how to speak Arabic to some certain extent, right? Things like this. You're going to find that all of these students, they can teach it. But why they don't teach it? Because they're comparing themselves to those who are way better than them. So they're like, if I'm not at the level of this great sheikh, how can I teach people? And, I had that feeling sometimes. Like some of the people I look up to, they keep mentioning knowledge, right? They keep speaking about things with knowledge. And I'm thinking, all these things that he's saying, I need to open the book to be able to say it. So how can I ever teach, right? But that's not the starting point. That's what the end point looks like.
I think also a big point to remember or to keep in mind is that actually a lot of the awam, a lot of the public, there's a lot that they don't know. Sometimes we think, why should I teach this simple thing? But actually, because a lot of simple things, the awam, they don't have. They don't know still. Also, I think a lot of thoughts from shaitan comes to them. Maybe it comes to them saying that maybe the awam, like how can I give a khutbah or how can I give a dars? Maybe the public, they'll think of me like this, like that. This guy doesn't know anything. What is he saying? But most of the time, you'll actually find that the public, they're thankful, they're grateful that there is someone trying to teach the deen, teach Islam in the community. And also those who say like who graduate from these institutions and they say they don't know anything, what can they benefit? At the very least they know more than the awam. They know more than the public. Maybe not by much, let's say not by much, but that little bit that you know more than the public, you have to teach that.
It makes a difference, right? Because sometimes you're gonna find yourself that you still find yourself making a lot of mistakes. For example, even in this interview alone, I perhaps made some mistakes in pronunciation. For example, instead of saying Quran, I said Quran with Ain instead of Hamza, right?
Maybe because of the nerves.
Of the nerves are there, of course, right? And then I rectified it later, right? And then made the mistake again, but then rectified it later. So sometimes you have to accept that you're gonna make mistakes.
You're not ma'asum. Only the prophets are ma'asum.
At the same time, you have to realize that when you go to do these studies, you have certain responsibility. Not necessarily be the teacher or the imam of the masjid, but have something to give to people. Even if it's creating free resources for them to access, for the teachers in the masjid to access,
100%.
Or making online videos for people to access, or making online lesson plans, or because perhaps the teacher is already there. They have ability of having that knowledge, but perhaps they just don't have a plan on how to deliver it, right? For example, a lot of madaris that you see of Saturday and Sunday, they don't really have like a plan. So you see people attending there from childhood until they grow up, but they don't really advance too much, right? However, if a plan existed of like, we're going to do this, and then at this point we're going to have an exam on this, or like every week we're going to do exam on this, you're going to find that people are going to start making more progress or giving it as much importance as they give it to other things like school and things like that, right? Seeing a real effect on this in their lives.
Sahih. Now going back to you, Ustaz Osama. Inshallah, you're going to graduate after this semester.
Inshallah.
And going back to UK, inshallah. What's your plan now? Are you going to try and continue masters, or are you going to go straight to da'wah scene, or you're going to study a different degree? What's your plan, Ustaz Osama?
At the beginning, I had planned of going into masters, right? Because I was worried that if I don't get in now, it'd be a bit difficult to get in later. But then what I saw is that a lot of our professors, who I learned a lot from, they didn't go straight into masters. Some of them, they did something else for 10 years, 12 years before going into masters, right? So I started thinking, wait, maybe I don't have to rush so much, right? And also because there's a certain level that you need to have before going into masters, right? So if I went to sign up now, I feel like I wouldn't benefit as much as I would if I completed certain things. So now my main objectives after graduating is first cleaning up my Arabic. I want to make sure that my Arabic comes out really nicely in terms of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Right? That's first. Why? Because now I'm gonna run into have to teach, perhaps teach Quran, perhaps teach Hadith.
Yep.
We have explained even simple topics to people. I have to know the Arabic properly, right? I cannot allow myself to fall short in that matter. And I've seen it a lot of times of people that they may have graduated but they don't speak Arabic too well, and they haven't really put the effort after graduating into learning it. Second thing, completing the Quran memorization.
Okay.
So those two things are the main part. But then in terms of work to put in, the main ones is there's some translation work that I want to do regarding certain books and topics that already exist, right? Because some scholars from Europe, they may have made videos in Arabic, and I asked permission if I can translate them to Spanish, Catalan, or English, and they give me permission. So now I'm just also trying to learn translational skills to be able to translate all this content and make it available to my own communities so they can have easy access to it, right? So I feel like all these things in general are going to be of huge benefit if Allah wills, inshallah.
Inshallah, bismillah ta'ala. Inshallah, I think we should take a small break. Continue after a bit. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا ورسولنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back to the second part of the interview with our Ustaz, beloved Ustaz Osama. Allah يحفظه. We just took a small break. It was getting a bit hot, and we were also kind of hungry, and we took a bite, went somewhere to eat, and prayed Dhuhr, and now we're inshallah doing the second part of the interview. Let's continue off where we left off. Basically, you talked about I think going back and benefiting the community.
Yeah, that's right.
I wanted a follow-up question, maybe not 100% related to the Jami'ah, but in terms of the Spanish community or Islam in the Spanish community, what do you see different in terms of the level of da'wah between the English-speaking community and the Spanish-speaking community? Which one do you think needs more attention? And for example, like what are some like the problems that are faced, for example, in the Spanish-speaking community? Is there much da'wah going on?
Well, the thing that I found is that, at least in my experience, since Birmingham I'd say is like one of the best cities when it comes to being a Muslim in the West in general. Thanks to the amount of not just the Muslims, but also the amount of graduates, but also Islamic libraries, the amount of mosque available, the amount of durus going on. Every day, or at least every week, you're going to find that there's at least one lesson going on somewhere, right? So that's, of course, there. And not only just that, sometimes you will see that they invite many speakers from other cities, or perhaps at times they invite scholars from other countries to come and give lectures, or sometimes to give a series of lectures, right? However, what I found in Spain is that we need to do more work in foundational level, right? Because the Islamic community there obviously has been established for like quite a long time,
More than 1,000 years, Andalusia.
Yeah. However, now the amount of Muslims there is like very small, right? With like I'd say 3% max in the entire country, right? So the thing that you come to find is that at times the Islam is very restricted to those who are already Muslim from before, right? So if you're from Morocco and you are from Togo or from Ghana or Nigeria or any of those countries and you come into Spain, you still gonna be basically surrounded with the same group of people, right? So, but having new Muslims come in, pushing lectures, to talk to the non-Muslims in the country, or doing like long duros, or having a set program for the youth from here to here. You're gonna learn all these things. That's not as common. Of course, in certain parts of Spain, they have people who have seek knowledge. So obviously, in their areas, you're going to see that Islam tends to be more robust, and they tend to have long lectures, right? So in some cities, you're going to find that the imam there every day is giving a lecture on a certain topic regularly, right? Perhaps after prayer, or perhaps every weekend or something like this, so people can attend and benefit from it. And sometimes they even upload it onto YouTube. Some places they also started developing doing this and khutbas in Spanish language, right? So now you have people actually benefiting from it if they do not speak Arabic, right? So I feel like Spain, the main issue right now is that the Islam has weakened, especially among the youth, right? I've seen some people that I grew up with that went to the same madrasa as me, but because of the nature of things, some of them, they weren't really holding Islam. Like the entire Islam that they experienced was only in those 2 hours that they were in the madrasa on Saturday and Sunday, right? And then perhaps at times, perhaps if they see that someone is going to the mosque, like one of the friends go to the mosque, maybe they tag along, right? But what happens is that, for example, I remember the situation. One of my neighbors, he wasn't really practicing, not out of choice, but simply because he wasn't being pushed towards the religion, right? So he was more like easygoing in terms of that matter. But I remember one Ramadan, I told him to come with me to the masjid, right? But of course, since he wasn't really practicing, what happened? That of times, he will turn to me, tell me what to do, or trying to speak to me while praying. So because he was not familiar with these things, right? And eventually they ended up not allowing them in the mosque because they said that they're causing too much trouble, right? So now here an issue is highlighted where the youth at times they may not be close to Islam, and therefore sometimes cause trouble for the mosque. But at the same time, if they get kicked out of mosque, now it's more difficult for them to get familiarized with their own religion. So things like this end up becoming bigger challenges at the scale of the whole community and not just on individuals, because you understand that this spreads amongst others, because now you have a group of people from the same country following the religion in a very cultural way, but like easygoing way, right? They're not really attached to the religion, right? They simply like living like the people of that country. So now when more Muslims come, seeing all these people they're surrounded with, they follow Islam in this certain way, so they're gonna do the same thing, right? So now you cannot really distinguish between what's someone who's like fully focused on practicing Islam and someone who simply practices it as something on the side, right? So yeah, that's mainly it, where we're missing that attachment to the religion amongst a lot of Muslims in the West. And we put a lot of focus, which is important, right? We put a lot of focus on those who were already, practicing, proper Muslims. I don't want to say proper Muslims, but like, they stuck to the religion to some extent. Right. Finally, in the Spanish-speaking community, we have some scholars, especially from South America, who have put a lot of work in translating a lot of books and works into the Spanish language and into Catalan. So these have made things more easily accessible, right?
Yeah.
So for example, now we have Quran translations.
I had one Sheikh Isa Garcia.
Yeah, Isa Garcia, he made translation of the Quran into Spanish and into Catalan, right? For example.
MashaAllah.
But what are we missing? Now missing other people who are versed in the Arabic language to translate more books. Like
Okay.
we don't really have a tafsir written in Spanish, right? Like we have some parts of it, or we have one sheikh doing his own tafsir, based on what he learned before. But having a book, they say, oh, this is the tafsir of, on tafsir mawdu in this topic, right? Or tafsir of the whole Quran, that's a bit more difficult to run into. So things like that obviously are being made, the efforts are being made by many sheikhs. Some institutions also are working with different Islamic countries and creating Islamic universities now.
Did you see the Islamic
Spain.
University in Andalus?
Andalus, yeah.
Yeah, Andalus
Yes.
Institute. No,
Yes.
no, not Institute. Andalus University.
University.
It's called.
Yeah, they're making a university there in Andalusia.
Yeah.
Right. So as you can see, now in 2025, 26, you're starting to see like there's like a big jump, a big change from how things were before, right?
Yes.
But if you jump back like 5-10 years, all these things is going to be a bit more difficult to come across them. For example, even when I was there, it was a bit difficult to run into these things. If you
Find resources.
find resources, right? Like for example, if I was to search khutbahs or lessons in my language for these things, it'd be a bit difficult, right? Sometimes I'd be lucky and go run across into the South American community videos, but then when it comes to Spanish community, it take a bit more effort.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Inshallah, going back to the topic of seeking knowledge, let's say someone now comes up to Sheikh Osama and they say, Sheikh Osama, I'm interested to study knowledge. I want to increase my knowledge in Islam. I want to know more about Islam. I'm interested to be a student of knowledge. What should I do now? What are the steps? What books can you recommend me? What should I focus on first? Where should I go? What's your advice?
Now, if someone was to want to start seeking knowledge, I'd say that the first thing, always with anything, which is the first advice that you always get, but always tends to be the easiest to forget, which is to rectify and constantly check your intention. Because now, if your intention becomes to try to argue with people, to gain fame, or to refute people,
So seeking knowledge has become a trend.
yeah, you're gonna find that you're not really gonna get too much barakah from the seeking of knowledge that you're doing, right?
And they'll fizzle out as well. They'll start strong, but then
you start strong, passion, but then when you get into topics that you don't really care about, you're gonna find yourself not putting too much interest.
Also,
right?
people don't realize how it's not as easy as people think.
Yeah.
People think, subhanAllah, I'm going to be at the feet of scholars, studying 24 hours, studying something about Islam.
Yeah.
But then people get burnt out. People get fizzled out because it's not easy.
And usually this burnout tends to happen because people go into it without having previous discipline in terms of their studies of the religion, right? They tend to glorify the Islamic institutions abroad. So what happens now? They look down upon their own place where they live in, right? Not realizing that the place where they live in, perhaps they could achieve a certain level of knowledge that perhaps will go a long way for them if they were to go abroad after that, right? So but what happens? People, they put all their eggs in one basket and say, when I go there, that's when I'll attend every lesson, revise every evening, do my Quran after every prayer, attend the durus after the university classes are finished.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic because then they end up burning out.
Yes.
Because if you tell them to try that, to do that, right now in their own city, you're gonna find that they struggle with it, right?
Yeah.
So first thing is check your intention. Make sure that it's done for the sake of Allah, to remove ignorance from yourself and from those around you. And not just because you want to be called. Yeah, you don't want to be called someone. This guy is the defeater of those people under what do they call it? Misguided people, right? Rather, you want to do it for the sake of Allah. Like, hey, this is important. I need to make sure that I'm learning the right thing and teaching people the right thing, right?
Yes.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is always that I tell people is the Arabic and Quran, right? Because yes, you can learn the religion without knowing Arabic, but that's for someone that's just the average person. Like you can get away without knowing Arabic and learning, attending tafsir lessons, attending duru's on fiqh, like perhaps the sheikh is doing Umdatul Ahkam, so you can attend and learn from it. But if you want to be a student of knowledge, you cannot get away without knowing Arabic, right? Because now there's when you depend on translations, you only have access to like 1% of
100%.
what's actually available in terms of the Islamic inheritance when it comes to knowledge.
There's only
right?
so far you can go.
Yeah, there's only so far you can go. But when you learn Arabic, and once you complete the studies of the university, you gain access to all these works. That's why the teachers always say that the university is simply a key to the actual knowledge, because they give you the foundation. Even if you go in depth, they give you the foundation, and then now you can access to all these works that are available to you, and that's where you can actually benefit from what exists in Islam, right? So perhaps there is hundreds of thousands difference of tafsir, but without knowing Arabic, you wouldn't know why read one over the other, or what you can benefit from one that you wouldn't find in the other, and things like that, right? So, and then the Quran, the Quran is really important, because now when you go to learn about the religion, whether it is aqidah, fiqh, usul al-fiqh, or just Islamic history or civilizations or adab, you cannot get away without not knowing the sources of this knowledge in the Quran or in the hadith, right? And the Quran is where it all starts. So now, if you're gonna plan to be a student of knowledge, it is very easy to just be like, oh yeah, these people say this is allowed, these people say this is not allowed. But your job as a student of knowledge is understanding why do they say this? Is it even valid for them to say this? Right? And being able to compare different sayings, being able to study all these things in the Islamic universities, and then being able to go back to your country and tell them the part that they need, because you're not just gonna copy paste what you learn back to your country, but rather you being familiar with your own people, with your own community, you're gonna select the part that's most important, and then deliver that. And then perhaps after some time, once the general level of the people starts elevating by the will of Allah, you're gonna find that now you can go into certain topics that before you couldn't teach, because if you had taught those topics before, perhaps you have caused confusion between the people, right? So those three are the main things. To check your intention, start with Arabic, start with the Quran, and then when it comes to books, you're gonna find that, for example, for a hadith, a lot of scholars on Sunnah knowledge, they tend to recommend to go with Bulugh al-Maram, because it covers over 1,000 hadith related to the Islamic rulings, right? So now, if you have the Quran on one end, you have Bulugh al-Maram on the other end. Now, when you go into the Islamic university, when they bring up the evidences, it doesn't come as a surprise to you. It doesn't come as a thing that you've never seen before. So it becomes a smoother process for you. And now, rather than you having to focus on memorizing the Quran, having to focus on memorizing these hadiths that they brought up to you, now you can simply move on to the bigger steps and actually writing down the benefits that the teacher is saying. Otherwise, you're going to be spending perhaps 10 minutes just writing down everything the teacher is saying, when otherwise you could simply written the extra benefits that perhaps you couldn't have known before. So those are the main things that I'd say that a student needs to do. And then finally, to build discipline within themselves before they even think about traveling. Especially in terms of revising. Can you attend a lesson and push yourself to revise after class? Or are you simply going to depend on the class and expect to be a scholar just by attending the class. So yeah, those are the main advice I'd give.
Okay. I want to ask you, maybe it's a maybe a slightly personal question, but and to be honest, it's not really a good question to ask. Like the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he says a person shouldn't say, "No, فعلت كان كذا وكذا." If only I did this or that. It opens the doors to shak and waswas. But is there anything that you did or you regret not doing or doing in your years in the Jamia that you would advise new students to avoid, so that they didn't fall maybe in something that you did that you disliked, you know, or maybe something that you wish you did more because you're about to graduate, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say the first thing is avoiding complaining too much, because it was only after a few years that end up realizing the amount of benefits that I could only get at this university that wouldn't have been available for me at other universities. And a lot of times you end up glorifying one place, not realizing how much you have in the place that you're currently at.
Yeah.
And these things end up leading to what? End up leading to you being lazy with your studies in general, right?
Yep.
Why? Because you don't see the value of what you have in front of you. For example, it wasn't until like a bit later into my studies that I found out that I can go to the teachers and pretty much ask any questions, ask for clarifications on any confusions I had. The door was always open. But why didn't that happen earlier? Not only because perhaps I wasn't aware, but because I didn't even have the motivation of even considering it. And why did that happen? Because I was too busy complaining about, oh, if it was like this or if it was like that. Clear example is the Arabic program, for example, right? Like I did like, oh, 1 year is not enough. I need at least 2 years. Not realizing that that 1 year was really not enough, because had I put more work into it myself, I have benefited more from it, right? Rather than spending all that time complaining, I could have used that time to actually make something out of this 1 year, right? So, first thing is not complaining too much, and the other thing I'd say that I'll have benefited from doing more often, or rather avoiding, was going to the library more often and get familiar with the books. Because what you come to find is that in many classes, they tend to ask you to write a small research paper, like 10, 15 pages, right, on a topic that you studied. But what happens, that when you don't visit the library often, you're not familiar with the books, sometimes you come across with many names of many scholars or many books mentioned here, right, that perhaps the average proper student of knowledge will be aware of this, right? But since you're not familiar with the library and the books that they have, now you have to search where can I find the information to begin with. When someone who has already, done this thing before, they'll know, oh yeah, I can simply go to this book and I'll find it there, or I can go to that book and I find it explained in this way, or I can go to this book to benefit from the way that they formatted, things like that. So getting familiar with the library. Another thing I'd say is the thing of not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yep.
As in, the university provides you with a huge amount of information
Yep.
in terms of Islamic sciences, but you also, as a student of knowledge, have to go out of your way, not just to earn more Islamic knowledge outside the university, or outside of what they provide, but also to learn some real life worldly skills that can help you in when you go back to your country and getting a job and things like that. Especially for those that live in the West. And then on the other side of this is to avoid overloading yourself with information. What many students of knowledge tend to do is that they realize that the amount of information available to them on the internet. So they will come and find 20 different books, 10 different programs on the same thing. So then what happens? They start reading a bit of this, they start reading a bit of that. They go into one program, they leave it for another one. They find that there's an explanation from this other sheikh, then they leave it there for a more simple one in their own language. So now they keep going back and forth, not sticking to one methodology of how to approach knowledge. So what happens? Then now you become not only a bit confused in certain matters, but you find that you're not making much progress. You're not making too much progress in what you are seeking to make. So an example for this is the university has Nahwu classes, right? And they have their own books, and these books contain a lot of information, right? What happens now? Then you go on the internet and you find Al-Ajurmiyah. And then you search even more and you find Sharh al-Ajurmiyah written, right? You go on YouTube and you find an explanation from Al-Ajurmiyah from this sheikh. And then you find an explanation from a sheikh who speaks English. So now in this process, this can happen in the span of like 2 months, right? So you find the Ajurmiyah, you start, and then you find the Sharh, and then you're like, I'll go with the Sharh, so I can learn the explanation and the Ajurmiyah at the same time. And then like, I found a YouTube video from this sheikh that's very well known. And then, I found an explanation in English, so I can understand easier. So you keep jumping, but you're not making progress. Constantly stuck on the same beginning, just learning about the types of words in Arabic.
اسم فعل حرف.
Constantly, you're doing it again, not making any progress, not realizing that how you stuck with one, if you went to the other, you have progress even faster than you did, because perhaps some things they already stick. Right? So those are the main advices. I'd give to a new student of knowledge.
To basically be consistent.
Be consistent under one methodology. Trust your teachers with what they give you,
100%.
but do extra work outside the university,
100%.
and don't overload yourself with information. And most important of all, make sure that you have the correct intention.
100%. One of the most important things for student knowledge is to have a manhaj, basically, methodology on what you should study, when you should study it. There's always levels: beginner, intermediate, advanced. You can't just straight go into advanced, or not you'll waste a lot of time, and stick with one program. I see, subhanAllah, I've been to Egypt. I'll talk about Egypt a bit. Egypt is really, I would say it's a paradise for طلاب العلم, because so many scholars there, and so many places that you can seek knowledge, and so many resources available, so many Markaz, so many institutes that you can just go. You don't like one, you go to another sheikh. You don't like one institute, you go to a different institute. But the problem was people, they'll go with one program. They go with one institute, but then they hear, or they don't feel like they're progressing. Because it's normal, at the start, you're not going to progress as much. And then they hear from their friend or from someone else that, this Markaz, they do this book, Arabiya Bayna Yadayk, they study this many hours, you should come. So they switch. And then what happens is, they've been in Egypt for 1 year, 2 years, but they're still in the beginning. You test them on Arabic, they still can't speak. You test them on fiqh, they can tell you only about Anwa' al-Miyah, and maybe a bit in Tahara and Salah. You ask them in Mu'amalat, what's Mu'amalat? But they become scholars of fiqh, Tahara and Salah. But other topics, they get neglected. But that's the most important thing, to really have a sheikh. Also, I really see it's important that you go to a sheikh that you can stick with a long time. And you can go through the levels with him, book by book. For example, in Fiqh Shafi'i, I keep on saying Fiqh Shafi'i because I'm Shafi'i.
Makes sense.
But for example, you go through Safinat al-Najah with the sheikh. With the same sheikh, you go to the next level, Matan Abi Shuja', then you go Fath al-Qarib, and then you go Al-Iqna'. It takes long, but what I realized, after being in the Jami'ah for a while now, there's no shortcuts to ilm.
There's no shortcuts.
There's no shortcuts to ilm. But you need to take it slowly. Like I think it was Sufyan ibn Uyayna or Sufyan al-Thawri, one of the Salaf. They said that they used to learn ilm hadith, one by one.
And
And it's not like they took the whole And Bulugh al-Maram wasn't there back then. But it's not like they took Bulugh al-Maram straight away, or like 1,000 ahadith
Only
in one
go.
day. Yeah,
that's not
took
possible.
years, akhi. Took years. I think like seeking knowledge, or the path to seek knowledge, you need a lot of sabr.
Yeah,
You need to realize it takes time to really get that knowledge to come in. Sometimes you feel like you've been learning for months, for years, but you're not progressing.
yeah,
But if you actually look properly, you are. But you have got to do it with correct methodology, like you said, Sheikh Osama, and have that patience, and have someone to guide you, someone to show you the right methodology.
yeah. And I find that the patience part is probably even the most important, right? Because it's not only patience due to the long journey, but also patience with at times with the teacher, because some teachers may be more strict than others.
Yes.
For example, right now I'm in a Quran classes for Hifz, and a lot of people that started with me 3 years back, they're not there anymore. Why? Because they couldn't handle how strict the teacher was. Even with the smallest detail, the teacher was always onto it, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
not realizing the benefit of this, that now when they go and teach other people, they're not going to let this mistake slip in, because that's how the Quran is preserved, right? And at times, be patient with fellow students, right? Some students may like to do things one way. Some students, they may be louder than others. Some students, they may be, too separated from the general group, right? So you end up finding that, it's a bit difficult at times, but you have to be patient with these things, with the journey, with the teachers, with the classmates.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I agree with what you said, Ustad Osama. Unfortunately, you see a lot of people who set out on this path. A lot of them, unfortunately, they either drop out, or they don't stay on the seeking knowledge path.
Yeah,
Because of reasons. Some, yani, it's understandable. Some of them, after they graduate, they get busy. You have to support a family.
yeah, that's okay.
They have to support, earn an income. Yani, they have to feed mouths. But it's not as easy as people say. A lot of people, they like to shame some students of knowledge for not being in the da'wah scene. And it's true, they do have the responsibility to do so. But in another light as well, you can kind of understand sometimes, some of them really do have that excuse. But I think it's really important to have istiqamah, and like you said, sabr. A lot of waswas min shaitan as well. Always reminds me of the dua, actually, that the Prophet ﷺ always says, that Ya muqallib al-qulub, Allahumma ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik wa ta'atik. Make me firm on this religion, because you never know. Your heart can change like that. Your heart is between the fingers of the Rahman. One day maybe you're the best person. Tomorrow, la qaddar Allah, it could happen that you just change.
Yeah, of course.
You always ask Allah for that thabat in the deen and His ta'ah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other things you want to say, Sheikh or Ustad Osama?
Yeah, this last thing that you said is very important, and it goes really in line with the whole point of having the good intention. Because sometimes you may feel like, you're so deep into the religion, there's no way that you're ever gonna have a bit of shaky feelings or anything like that, right? You're like, oh, so the aqidah, so this. But sometimes you have to apply it before you actually see the real benefit. Because why? Because you may come and be challenged on something that you are not prepared for, right? So sometimes you may come across a situation that you never thought will affect you, and now you're up to the knees deep into this problem that you initially wanted to avoid. Right? So it's important to never look down upon someone that you see that's perhaps not strong on the religion, and always do dua to Allah to keep you firm upon the deen, because you don't know if you may be put into a situation that will make you fall into the same issue that they have fallen into.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Any last words or advice to the people?
For those, I'd say for those that are applying for the university or any Islamic university, doesn't matter, to be patient with the whole process, right? Because it can take quite some time to get replies between, from email to another until you get accepted into university. Also, for those that perhaps are not seeking to go abroad or want to seek knowledge but cannot go abroad, to always look at the local community, right? And to always ask around for those who may have more knowledge regarding these matters, right? Because perhaps you may find that someone knows about a certain program that's for free that you can learn about,
Yeah.
or someone knows about a group chat that you can join where they show lessons happening on this place or that place that perhaps you can go and attend. You may run into brothers and sisters who have knowledge regarding, have a structured programs on how to seek knowledge. These programs also that are like self-paced, they may help you. Some people, they find that they learn more when attending lessons rather than online and self-paced,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And that may be available to you,
Yeah.
but at times it may not be available to you, right? So that's when you have to be patient and push yourself through the methods that perhaps you wouldn't prefer otherwise.
Yep.
So those are the main things that I have to say.
100%. 100%.
And finally, just learn to adapt.
Yeah.
Because of course you're going to be in this Islamic university, you're going to be around many different cultures,
Yeah.
people from all over the place,
Yeah.
right? You're going to see people from countries that you didn't even know existed before.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to coexist with them and get used to this new lifestyle and know this unity with your brothers from Islam.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the biggest benefits I got from this university was feeling more attached to my identity as a Muslim rather than with my country, right? Before it was more like, oh, if I find someone who speaks English, I'll be fine. But now it's more like, if I find Muslims, now I know that I will be fine for sure.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Tabarakallah. Yeah. Just that was a good final note. But just I just want to say something as well. People think that you have to go to Islamic university to seek knowledge. Rather, there's many resources online now.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do full-time seeking knowledge. You can always just have it part-time, Maybe even just one lesson a week is better than nothing. And the ummah as well, they need more than just scholars. Scholars is an important part of the ummah. But you need people that are part of the Muslim community, that are engineers, that are doctors, that are in IT. Everything that can service the deen and the ummah, the religion needs it. But even if يعني لا قدر الله you didn't get accepted to any jami'ah, think about how you can really benefit the community. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe you won't be a scholar, doesn't mean you can't be learned.
Yeah.
And you can be a what do you call it, a professional or a master in a different field.
Exactly.
That may not necessarily be Islamic or has to do with Islamic sciences, but it's needed in today's day and time. فجزاكم الله خيرا أستاذ أسامة.
وجزاك شيخ.
الله يحفظك. We hope that when you graduate, you benefit your community,
Inshallah.
and that you become a means of benefit for the whole Muslim ummah in the world. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.